Hi there, everybody. I'm Fred Thomas, and you are watching All Things Bike, brought to you by Zentis Wheels and AD Bikes. And today we are speaking with Kinnin Payson, USA cycling official.
Yes, I am.
Kinnin.
Hi, Fred.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How strange to meet you outside of a bike race. I don't have a helmet on.
That's right.
I've got my bike, but
how would I recognize you without a helmet?
I know, exactly. Well, nowadays we have to put our names. We have little stickers that have our names on our bikes, so everybody knows who we are. But hey, well, I'm fascinated to finally meet with you and to find out how you became a USA official and how one goes about doing it, because it's an essential thing. I mean, without you guys, every bike race would be like something out of the Road Warrior, probably, right?
Yes, but I have to tell you that without the racers, we don't really have anything to do.
That's true too. You'd just be standing out on the side of the road.
Right.
How does it work?
I started because I was married to a man who wanted to race his bike, and we went to several races, and everything was disorganized, and people forgot to get road permits and all that. And I said, there's got to be something somebody could do about that.
Right. And when was it? This is in the
1977.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, it was the golden age, maybe. But yeah, so what happened?
And then, I became what was then the district rep for Maine and then New Hampshire. So I was a double district. And the way that I got to be an official was that one of the other district reps said to me, come on and let's go to the clinic and take a test. So we had to sit through a clinic, and we took a multiple guess question exam. And then depending on your score, that determined what your rank would be.
Okay.
That's right. So,
the questions are like testing you on a booklet of information.
Well, except we didn't have the book.
Oh, really?
We were supposed to learn it all from the seminar.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And so I did okay on that and worked a lot because the woman who got me into it, Grace, and I were really the only two that were active. Right. So we went to all kinds of races. And the more I did, the better I got. The better I got, the more I did. Right. Cycle.
Right. And it was only bike races, road races, the criteriums, the traditional road races that you started with, and I guess that you've always officiated. Is that right?
Oh yes. There was no mountain biking at the time.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And we did have a car track that we used for district championships, which was pretty much a joke. But then as we moved on, and I was with U.S. Cycling Federation at that time.
USCF. I mean,
You're
showing your age as soon as you start referring to.
And we used to say you should consider football.
Is that right?
But so things progressed, and people dropped in and dropped out of the sport, but we seemed to be gathering more and more people to be officials, which was a good thing.
That's great.
And so and of course you have to take more tests and go to more seminars, and I did that. And I went from, I think, a Cat 4 to 3 to 2 to 1 to a national commissaire to an international commissaire.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work.
I bet, yeah. I mean, so give us an example of what they would ask you in a seminar. For a Cat 4 and then all the way to Cat 1. I mean, I imagine it's yellow line rule, and you can provide a sense of...
Yellow line rule, they taught us how to score, which is keeping track of the riders as they go by.
Oh, right, yeah.
How to time, how to write down the timing, how to figure out how you would do your score sheet, things like that. Dick Ring taught me how to set up a score sheet.
Oh, right.
And some of the questions would be pretty basic for the newbies exam.
Right, yeah.
And then they would get more complicated and more complicated. And finally, for the Cat 1 exam, we were asked to set up a team pursuit and what people do you have here and where and on the track and where, you know, where's this line go and what does this line do and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's difficult because you may not have a track, a velodrome to witness that.
Now, I had to go to Colorado Springs to the USA Cycling headquarters to take that.
That's fascinating. Again, a lot of cyclists don't have very little sense of the work that's involved. But just for the record, what is the yellow line rule? So viewers can.
It's funny. I'm working with a race director in New York, and he wanted it just a quick question, quick sentence. And I said, all riders must stay to the right of the center line of the road when they're in the race. Which means that if this is where the yellow line where the yellow line or the center line is, and this bicycle is over it, you're subject to disqualification.
Right, just like that. And nowadays there's a ref on a motorbike who's right behind the group, usually at the bigger races, and he's looking for it. And he's been trained. He's taken the same tests that you have. But I mean, imagine in the 70s when they were going around, and there were a lot of infractions.
Well, I suppose you could say that,
yes. Perhaps. But if no one sees them, I guess they didn't happen.
Well, and when you're working at a local race, that's where you really learn, where I really learned how to officiate, so that when I got to an international race, I already knew all the mechanics and I knew how to apply the rules, and now I could concentrate on other things.
Right, exactly. You've internalized it. But the yellow line rule is the most important one. And
yes.
It really, what's the safety message that they're trying to?
Well, as we all know, when a car and a bike collide, it's not usually in the bike's favor. Right. So by keeping riders to the right of the yellow line or the center line, we potentially can prevent having a car come on to the bicycle. Right.
It's all about safety. No, it's a good rule, and most people, in my experience, seem to follow it. Every now and then, some guys take advantage of it. I mean, is it fair to say that certain categories have more infractions than others, or?
Yes, but the infractions are on a different level.
Right.
So when you have a beginner rider, it might be going around a corner and going way to the left of the center line. Right. When you have the pros, they're going to be doing it all the time. And so they're dancing out and coming back and dancing out and coming back. And so their level of sophistication dictates what is their level of infraction.
I get it. So for the pros, it's hanging on to the rear view mirror of the car. And that's, my ankle hurts. Or
I'm so tired.
I know. Well, that's what makes it entertaining. Well, what are the sort of the organizational things that you do when you turn up at a race, just in a general sense? What do you have to do?
Of course, it depends on the race, but
say a local race, like the Clam Festival, which I want to talk about.
Because that's been going on for so long, there's very little that I have to do ahead of time. But when we started that race in 1980, I had to do a lot of working with the people who were going to be putting the race on, which was actually me and my father. And I had to make sure that the sponsors knew what they could and couldn't do, and of course let the riders know what they could and couldn't do. Had to let the police know what we needed and what we hoped for from them. That particular race has 2 sets of railroad tracks, so that can be a challenge.
Right.
But my father talked to the railroad and asked them not to come through during the race.
I remember hearing about that. Yeah, talk about influence. Just let's talk about that. Your connection to the Clam Fest. Did your father, did he race and he wanted to?
Oh, no. In 1957, friends of his and my mother's won the Millionth Visitor competition. It's not a competition, but it was a contest.
Right.
And they were from Washington, D.C., and very, very, very urbane.
Okay.
And they were headed on a tour of Maine. One of the places that they would end up was in Andover, Maine.
Okay.
And my parents really thought that they might be lost in the in Andover, Maine, coming from Washington, D.C. So
yeah, that's still pretty central.
Yeah.
And then they decided that, but were they riding their bikes, or they thought that?
No, my father never rode a bike that I know of, but but they went to Andover and watched all the celebration and said,
okay.
oh, we need to do that in Yarmouth. So in 1958, my father got people together and we had what we called Old Home Days. And that evolved into the Yarmouth Clam Festival.
I get it. And then the bike race sort of came in at some point once you had started officiating? Or?
Yes, I had been officiating for about 2 years. And my father came into Portland. We had a criterium down in the Market Street Exchange area.
About that, yeah.
Yeah, and he saw the last 2 laps and he said, we have to do this in Yarmouth. Yeah. And I thought, okay, Dad, thinking he'd forget it. No, he didn't.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
I think any cyclist who participates in that race will experience more cheering and sort of crowd participation in that 1 hour and a half than they will in an entire season of racing. So,
I think so, and it's because we already have the crowd there.
The crowd
but
is
we
already
tell
there.
people that it's because of the race.
I think they like it, though. Yeah,
I think they do.
They have a great time. Well, elaborate on some of the biggest, most complex exotic race that you ever officiated?
Well, the big one, of course, is the Olympics in 1996.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was a referee, timer, judge, scorer, bottle cook and washer and things.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta,
wow.
Yes. And that was a wow experience.
Right.
We went on to the venues and I would just...
Yeah, everything on a scale.
Yeah, and I'm here.
Yeah.
Small town girl from Yarmouth makes it, you know. But I've also been at many World Cup mountain bike races and World Championships and National Championships. And the thing about the Olympics is that the atmosphere, while it's the same, is completely different, much more formal.
Right.
And for World Cups, it's that same way. World Championships, though, is more formal than the World Cups. And then the National Championships are less formal. So,
interesting, yeah.
And so my level of knowledge and application, mostly, really had to come up to snuff on each of those levels.
But what a fantastic experience and a great challenge. I mean, were there any moments or challenges that occurred at the Olympics that you had to deal with, or has there ever been a sort of a controversy or a controversial call that you had to make?
No, not in Atlanta. It has happened, of course, but we were in Centennial Park the night before the bombing in Centennial Park, and
that's right. Yeah. There was a bomb that went off. That's right.
Right. So that was a little off-putting, but it didn't really hurt us, except that from then on, when we went to a venue, we were searched as if...
There was a damper on the whole thing, I'm sure. But I mean, has there been a time when you had to make a call over like a photo finish or a relegation of some sort?
The photo finish is exactly that. And if we can't tell who the winner is clearly, then we'll have a runoff. And I've done that a couple of times.
What is that? So you send them around one more time?
Well, this happened to be in a criterium course, so we sent them off for one more lap. And it was a cold start, and they had to go around, and whoever won the lap, of course, won the race.
So it would be open to the whole field, not just
just the two guys. And it's only for first place. You can have a tie for any other position.
That's fascinating. Well, I mean, that's a sort of an unintended consequence of having good cameras.
Exactly. Right. And some of the other things that have happened. One of the worst things was at the 24-hour national mountain bike race. Wow. We had been told by the wardens in the park that we had to stop. Oh, God. And the racers, this was about 12 hours into the race. And so what do? I mean, they've only raced half of what they expected to race. Yeah. And do you take the times when they came across the line at the called finish, or what do you do? Yeah. We decided to stop the race and then start it up again in the morning. and add the 2 times together.
Yeah, what a great call. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't received very well by the riders, but
is that right? Well, it's better than just finishing it at
that's right.
midnight. I mean,
and in the rain or whatever the conditions were, and finishing it there when people are no longer really thinking about coming into the finish, and so we allowed them at least to have that.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, again, a great example of how you sometimes have to think on the fly, on the move, and all that. Well, how is? I mean, USA Cycling is it's an old organization, but it's got a new name, and they've just rebranded and restructured. And how has that organization changed over the years since you've been involved?
Well, when I started, it was the United States Cycling Federation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, rah rah.
USCF. It only had 4 categories.
That's right.
Didn't have
and
5.
Women were just women, and masters were anybody over 35, and then grandmasters were over 45, and grandmasters, and then I don't know.
I sort of like that. Let's bring it back.
Yeah.
I'm a grandmaster.
Now they're age graded, but it used to be that way.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, there's so many things that have changed. The equipment, the bicycles, the clothing, the helmets.
Yeah.
Everything that riders have anything to do with really has changed.
And there's more rules, I suppose, about those things.
Oh yes. We have to have a rule for everybody. When I started out, riders had to wear black shorts, and the black shorts had to be, about 2 to 3 inches above the knee.
Really?
And they had to wear white socks.
Hilarious. There were wardrobe rules.
Oh yes.
But you didn't have to wear a helmet, though, right?
Oh yeah, you did, but you could wear those foolish
rainbacks.
The hairnets, leather hairnets.
Yeah, that's right.
And the year that we went to hard shell helmets was another sort of a challenge, but we got through it.
The Broncales.
Broncale, yes.
Useless.
Yep.
But
the Bell helmet that weighed about 1.5 pounds.
I think that's all progress.
Oh yes. And we knew that was going to happen. Yeah. You've got a clunker for a helmet, but we know they're going to develop things because they want you to buy their product.
Sure, yeah.
And one of the big things, and I'm really excited about this, is that women's cycling is coming into its own as a real sport.
Right.
Women race differently from men, and there's no way to get around it. We have treated women like the men, and you don't go as fast as men, so we don't think you're as good. Yeah. You don't do this the way men do. But now it's being seen as almost a separate sport.
Interesting, yeah.
And it's coming into its own, and there's a women's world tour.
Oh yeah, no, that's
right.
And
women's cycling Tour de France.
That's right. I mean, that's come back, and isn't there a women's category in all the classics this year? I'm not sure. Maybe.
Well, they're probably in separate races because the classics have a certain aura. Then they have to stick within that, but they will have women racing also.
Yeah, well, there's a women's category in the Velo Tourer Cup series that just got started in New England this year, and it's great. I mean, there are plenty of women who want to race and want to ride, and it's great news for my daughter. Maybe she'll be inspired.
Well, it is good news, and it's. I don't know if you're aware of it, but the women's national soccer team finally got what they deserved. And this was just before the World Championships. Yeah. And women are still underpaid and that kind of thing, but they're gaining parity, which is very important.
That's great. Yeah, no, it's great to hear. I mean, I think in the recent years it was getting thinner and thinner around here, but I'm pleased to hear that people are seeing how they can change things.
Yes.
And broaden the net. And
the race that I'm working with in New York is an all-women's race. It's called the Woodstock Women's Cycling Grand Prix.
Wonderful.
And it's, I think, every category known to women, but and it's one day, and So they go out and have a really hard road race.
In Woodstock, New York.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
yep. So that's exciting. It's exciting to be part of that.
That's great, Kinnin. No, so you're still involved in the events that you want to participate in. Is that right?
Essentially, I've kept my license. I retired last year, but I kept my license this year, so that if I was needed, I at least could help out. But we've got such good officials now in New England that they aren't going to need me.
Oh, sure they will. They're going to need the gravitas that your experience and knowledge brings to any race. And someone's got to tell all those masters to stop talking when they're reading the regulations.
Well, or stop the masters when they decide that the yellow line rule doesn't apply to them. Even
it's white. Yeah.
Even when the police go by.
Is that right?
Yes.
I mean, they're pretty strict now. I mean, I've seen guys get. I think they get relegated. The moto comes up and the guy is like, to the back, and I mean, maybe they get penalized, but I once tossed my bottle in the wrong place, maybe 500 meters before I was supposed to toss it. Boy. And the guy was just immediately right on me. Yep. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'll pick it up. And unfortunately, I mean, I know why they did that, because they collect all the bottles. And if I'd thrown it in the right place, I would have been able to pick it up. But since I threw it in the wrong place, it's gone forever.
It's not just that; it's the other people who live there.
Yeah, of course.
Don't want to see food wrappers
and the food wrappers.
Bottles.
I know. I think it's improved. I mean, I
do too.
I think the early 10 years ago, it was sort of a stream of those goo things, and then they would be all over the road. And I think people have gotten the message, and it's thank you. I mean, because the people who the riders are going to listen to are the officials.
We hope.
Oh yeah, I think so. Anyway, that's great, Kinnin. Thanks so much for coming down. It's
you're welcome.
Great to talk bikes, and we will continue to talk bikes, and we will see you at the Yarmouth Clam.
You bet you will.
Yeah.
Yes, you will.
All right, everybody, that was Kinnin Payson, a USA Cycling official. You can learn more about USA Cycling by just going to the interweb and typing in USA Cycling, and you'll learn all the rules there. And you can also get to the Yarmouth Clam Festival and meet Kinnin in person. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you again soon.
All Things Bike with Fred Thomas is brought to you by Zentis, performance carbon wheels handmade in Austria for road and off-road riding. Zentis, next generation wheels. And Frame and Wheel eBay bike selling services. Time, space, cash. Pick 3. And AD Bikes, the modern face of Austro-Daimler cycling and the bike company of the future.